The boy sat cross-legged in the center of the containment cell, blood drying in thin, coppery rivulets down his cheek. The walls pulsed faintly with pale blue light, biometric sensors scanning his every breath, heartbeat, eye movement. He didn't flinch when the door slid open with a hiss. 3 Imperial officers stepped in, their armor glinting like obsidian under the sterile ceiling lights. The tallest one, Command Overseer Tarshek, tilted his head at the boy like he was a puzzle he wasn't interested in solving. "This is it?" Tarshek asked, his translator implant flattening the words into something close to disdain. "Yes, Overseer," responded a younger alien, a junior analyst whose smooth gray skin twitched with nervous energy. "The human child captured on Borealis 3. Estimated age, 8 solar rotations. Unarmed. No implants. Resistance level, high." The Overseer knelt, eyes narrowing. Why hasn't he spoken? He refuses. Even under neural filament strain. No cries. No begging. Tarshek turned his gaze back to the boy, who simply stared at the polished floor between them, one leg trembling just slightly. Barely noticeable. But noticeable. "Let's try again." The filament came alive, hissing like a snake. It wrapped around the child's temple, buzzing with bioelectricity, engineered to provoke overwhelming pain while leaving no physical trace. They'd perfected it over centuries. But the boy remained still. A small sound slipped from his lips. Not a cry. Not even a gasp. A song. Soft. Wavering. Off-key. A tune not meant for battlefields but bedrooms. A lullaby. The Overseer's nostrils flared. Is he mocking us? "It's a human ritual. Calming behavior under duress," the analyst stammered. "He's singing," another officer said, almost incredulous. "While we torture him." The Overseer stood. "Terminate the experiment." A high-pitched tone echoed as the neurofilament pulsed once more and the boy jerked. Then went still. The song stopped. No screams. Just silence. The junior analyst looked away. He didn't know why. Far across the star map, on a mining asteroid converted into a hidden recon hub, a woman watched the feed in silence. She didn't blink. Didn't move. Her name wasn't on any database. Her image was scrubbed from every Earth military record. Only a few surviving veterans still whispered it, always in hushed tones, like invoking a ghost. General Helena Cecilia Drake, the only human to ever receive a Class 6 kill order from the Galactic High Command, and the woman who had vanished after giving birth to a son. Her son. The footage looped again. The boy humming. Then the filament. Then stillness. She replayed it. Once. Twice. A third time. Her hand clenched, veins bulging along her wrist as the last shot of her son's face, serene, almost defiant, burned onto the screen. The AI voice beside her spoke. Target confirmed. Code, Aurelian Asset 1. Status, terminated. Awaiting command input. She stood slowly. There were no tears. Only fire behind her eyes. Wake the Leviathan Protocol. The AI hesitated. Acknowledged. Initiating reassembly of autonomous fleet nodes. Warning. Leviathan Protocol is not reversible. Human Command Authority requires 3 key signatures for activation. She turned. Opened her hand. 3 rings. Heavy, gold, scorched from battles long since buried in history. Each bore a symbol of Earth's last military tribunals. She placed them one by one into the recognition slots. The AI beeped. Then a low hum shook the chamber. From behind the walls came the groan of machines that had not stirred in 10 years. Drone pods hissed open. Mechanical limbs unfolded. Railguns auto-primed. Coated in dust and starlight, a forgotten fleet began to wake. In the far quadrant of the Empire's occupied territories, the strategist of the 7th Imperial Legion reviewed an intercepted transmission. A single phrase had cracked their most advanced firewall, an Earth language idiom that translated, roughly, to, "You killed the wrong child." He tapped his claw against the edge of the hologram, troubled. "Is this propaganda?" he asked. The intelligence officer trembled slightly. "No, strategist. It's a personal transmission. originated from an asteroid-class station that had been presumed inert. The signal was encrypted in archaic Terran cipher language, something called Morse. The strategist narrowed his eyes. They still use sound-based code. The analyst nodded. It predates their digital evolution. Savages, the strategist hissed. But he didn't delete the message. Instead, he stared at it. Again and again. Something inside his chest tightened. An emotion he hadn't felt since the fall of the Sumerian rebellion. Was it unease? No. Impossible. The woman shouldn't be alive. She was declared neutralized after the siege of Io. Her DNA erased from the archive. She had personally killed over 17,000 Imperial units during the Red Dusk incident. Her death had been celebrated across 3 systems. So, who was sending these signals? Why was the message so specific? He accessed the old files, hidden in redacted layers. Even he needed special authorization to unlock. There she was. Black Ops file. Human classification. Strategic anomaly. Codename Mother Mercy. The irony made his stomach churn. She had vanished into a civilian alias. No trace, no digital shadow, no voice prints. Earth's own governments had forgotten her. Until now. His eyes widened slightly. The child. Could it be? No. Impossible. He tapped his terminal and, in silence, watched the footage again. The child. The humming. The refusal to scream. Then death. Then a lullaby. It looped in his mind. A Terran melody. It wasn't just a sound. It was a signal. She knew they'd record it. She knew they'd listen. And she had encoded something inside it. A burst frequency, so small, so human in its logic that their AI systems hadn't flagged it. But he had. She wanted them to hear it, to watch it, to feel it, to let her inside. His talons tapped rhythmically against his console. He opened a new simulation. Input: 1 human female general, post-grief, pre-retaliation. Output: simulation crash. He frowned. Adjusted variables. Boosted Imperial fleet presence. Deployed advanced AI reinforcements. Result: simulation crash. He ran it 3 more times. Every time, her retaliation destroyed the Empire within 5 planetary cycles. Update scenario parameters, he ordered coldly. Define new scenario, the AI responded. Add variable. Her son is dead. There was a long pause. Then, error. No survivable outcomes found. His mouth went dry. The overseer who had ordered the child's termination, Commander Tarshek, entered the chamber. Strategist, I've reviewed your urgency level summons. Surely you're not suggesting a single human presents a... The strategist turned. You don't understand what you've done. It was a child. He wasn't strategic value. He wasn't. She is the value, the strategist snapped. She is the anomaly. The reason our simulations never predicted Earth's final campaigns. I don't see how. She disappeared for 8 years. Do you think she was hiding? He tapped a control pad. The holoscreen filled with schematics, broken Imperial vessels, EMP blasts too refined for Earth tech, gravitational interference patterns beyond human comprehension. She was preparing. Preparing for what? For a moment just like this, the strategist said quietly. You killed her son. And now the galaxy burns. Meanwhile, Helena walked alone through the Leviathan control core. Her boots echoed off the steel. Her fingers brushed against dormant machines older than most moons. Each drone she passed opened its eyes. Each one recognized her. One even whispered, "Welcome back." She stopped before the command throne. Saturday, her son's last drawing, her in armor holding his hand, was tucked inside her gauntlet. She unfolded it now. The ink had smeared slightly, but the smile was still there. A child's hope, uncorrupted. That was gone now. She tapped her wrist. All remaining reserves. Activate ghost protocols. Prepare shadow incursions across sectors 7 through 12. Let them feel what grief tastes like. A pause. Then the AI responded, almost hesitantly. Are you sure? Her voice came, low and cold. I'm not his mother anymore. She looked toward the stars. I'm what comes after. Far across the void, alarms began to blare. Fleet nodes vanished off long-range scans. Communication hubs went dark. And above Earth, in the deepest satellite graveyards, where only ancient relics of Cold War paranoia floated, something turned back on. It had one directive, last encoded by a now-dead general: Leviathan Protocol online. And the stars shifted in silence. The wreckage of the Imperial Comms hub floated in orbit like a fractured jewel, pieces of alloy and shattered data cores spiraling slowly through the void. Fires flickered along the debris, defying physics in brief flickers before succumbing to vacuum. Rescue drones buzzed like panicked insects, their small whirring shapes dragging twisted bodies from the ruins. Aboard the remaining shard of the command deck, Overseer Varnex swayed on unstable legs, blood seeping from his brow and pulses. He hadn't heard the explosion. One moment, he'd been reviewing an energy flux in their perimeter sensors. Then the floor beneath him had split open, venting half the crew into space. He coughed, thick mucus filling his throat, and dragged himself toward a blinking console. The logs were corrupted. No trace of impact, no trajectory analysis, no projectile logs. Just white noise and a single sound loop embedded in the hub's black box. A lullaby. The same one from the Borealis child. He blinked through the haze, playing it again, trying to understand why it chilled him more than the cold vacuum clawing through the cracked bulkhead. Across the quadrant, General Helena Drake stood before an obsidian glass interface, deep within the resurrected Leviathan command nexus. The AI shimmered in fractal pulses, a low voice murmuring status updates in binary-rich English. Target: Comms Hub Alpha 6 neutralized. Trace elements confirm successful deployment of phase-shifted kinetic spear. Clean, she asked without turning. No debris signature traceable to Earthmake. Empire assumption likely to be internal sabotage or anomaly. She let out a slow breath. Not a sigh. A calculated exhale. The kind that came before the next step in a long, brutal plan. They'll escalate now, she murmured. They already have, the AI replied. Fleet patrols increased around sectors 8 through 10. Imperial intelligence units rerouting to known human rebel quadrants. Internal war simulations have risen by 11%. They're looking in the wrong places, she said. They always do. In the corner of the chamber, a reanimated war drone stepped forward. Its plating still bore scars from the siege of Titan's fall. One optic lens flickered from red to blue as its old voice pattern loaded. Commandant Drake, it rasped, may I execute Protocol Echo? Not yet, she said. Her tone clipped. They're not afraid enough. She turned then, fully, and walked to the elevated platform in the room's center. On it stood a hololith of the Empire's known fleet routes, stretching across 12 sectors. She passed her hand through one, Sector 7, and it shimmered. Comms are down. That's good. Now we take their eyes. Strategic target? Orbital sensor array on Varnak's spine. Their furthest reach. If we blind it, they lose forward telemetry for weeks. Risk level high, the AI warned. No human contact in that region for 5 years. Likely full Imperial saturation. She tapped her chest plate. The old metal clanged like a church bell. Then we don't send humans. The AI was quiet for a moment. Then, shall I wake them? Wake all of them. As the command echoed, deep under the base, stasis pods hissed open one by one. Each held something that shouldn't have existed anymore. Units decommissioned for being too aggressive, too unpredictable. The Empire had faced these horrors once and barely survived. And Earth had mothballed them. But Helena had kept them. Because she understood something the Empire never would. You don't destroy the monster. You keep it in the dark. And when they kill your child, you let it out. On board the Imperial flagship Vigilant Memory, strategist Corviel braced himself against the conference table as the latest data stream loaded. His thin fingers danced across the interface, dragging scan reports, logs, threat assessments into overlapping screens. Red flooded the room. Too much red. He didn't blink. One of his subcommanders leaned in. We have recovered logs from the destroyed hub. No sign of conventional attack. The structure appears to have folded in on itself. Folded. The current hypothesis is internal gravitational distortion, but the power required is not available to the humans, Corviel finished. A long pause. But it is now, he added, voice soft. The silence in the room grew heavy. Corviel turned slowly, his eyes locking on a junior analyst, whose face looked too young for war. The boy stared at the screen, frozen in place. Something to add? Corviel asked. The analyst swallowed. Sir, there was audio embedded in the black box. We believe it was intentional. Embedded using multi-layered harmonic distortion. Let me hear it. The room fell silent as the lullaby played again, low and sweet. Even the ship seemed to go still. When it ended, Corviel asked, Is it the same as the Borealis incident? Yes, sir. Almost identical. But this version contained encrypted pulses, non-linguistic. Code hidden in the waveforms. Decryption. Still running. But preliminary data suggests it's a command string, or a timestamp. A message. Yes, strategist. Corviel stared out the viewport into the dark stars beyond. She's not just retaliating. She's coordinating. This isn't vengeance. It's a campaign. The room shifted. Officers looked at one another. One finally spoke. Who is she, sir? Corviel tapped the console. A face appeared. Grainy. Scarred. Staring into a dead camera on some long-abandoned battlefield. Helena Cecilia Drake, he said. Former general. Vanished 8 years ago. No trace. No data trails. Earth itself may have forgotten her. But she didn't forget us. He tapped again, showing a list of incidents. Stations dismantled, drones repurposed, AI cores hijacked. Spread over the last 6 years. All labeled unsolved. All dismissed. All hers. And now she's telling us, he said, that everything we ignored was a mistake. Helena stood in silence as the first of the protocol echo units powered up. They didn't speak. They didn't need to. One looked at her. Its optic lens flickered yellow, then red. It nodded once. She nodded back. The AI chimed. All echo units online. Awaiting infiltration vectors. Upload maps of Varnak spine, she said. Prepare kinetic entry pods. Entry will kill 61% of units before contact. I only need 3 to make it. The hololith shimmered again. She stared at it. She remembered holding her son's hand. His fingers had barely wrapped around hers. He'd asked once why the stars were so far away. She'd said, so we have something to reach for. And now she was going to bring them down. The first pods launched 20 hours later. Silent. Untraceable. Metal coffins burning through the dark like forgotten missiles from a war no one remembered. Inside them, the echo units waited. No thoughts. No fear. Just vengeance. Corviel's comms lit up 3 hours later. Varnak's spine had gone dark. No sensor data. No life signs. No comms. Only one signal broadcast from its last functioning relay. It was 3 seconds of audio. A child's voice laughing. Then silence. Corviel slammed a clawed fist on the table. They're ghosts. She's sending ghosts. He spun, fury cracking the comm. I want her name sent to every high command unit. She's not myth. She's not propaganda. She's real. And she is declaring total war. Sir, one officer asked hesitantly, do we retaliate? He stared at them, and for the first time, the truth hit him. There was nothing to retaliate against. No fleets. No nations. No front lines. Just her. Alone. With the arsenal of an extinct world. And Fury as her navigator. We don't retaliate, he said finally. We beg. That night, Helena sat at the edge of a Leviathan's bridge, her fingers tracing the seam of her gauntlet where her son's drawing lay folded. She hadn't spoken to anyone human in weeks. Not because she didn't want to. Because she couldn't trust anyone to understand the clarity of grief. Vengeance was simple. Justice was cold. But grief? Grief was a weapon they didn't know how to predict. The AI spoke softly. Intercepted Imperial command message. Keywords: surrender, negotiation, fear. She didn't even glance up. Delete it. You don't want to hear it? I already know what they're going to say. She turned, finally, to face the starlit void ahead. They'll offer peace. Say they didn't know. Claim the boy was just a data point. A procedural casualty. Her voice dropped to a whisper. But I know better. She stood, gauntlet flashing with internal light, as her command code flickered across its surface. The Empire will learn what loss feels like. Not just pain. Loss. The kind that hollows you from the inside out. Her eyes narrowed. I'm going to make the stars weep. Behind her, the AI began to chant a launch countdown. She didn't look back. Because war was coming. And this time, the monsters were human. The transmission was brief, 37 seconds of raw footage, stripped of encryption and routed directly to the Galactic High Command's warboard. No preamble, no signature. Just grainy, handheld combat footage, as if shot by a survivor. Static-ridden. Stuttered. It opened with the interior of an Imperial outpost, walls lined with alien alloys, the banners of the Empire swaying above blood-smeared consoles. Corpses littered the corridor, some torn apart, others slumped in contorted angles. The camera panned, catching the glow of automated turrets, disabled, smoking. Then a sound, boots echoing, slow and deliberate. From the corridor's far end, a lone figure emerged, clad in black exosuit armor, matte and scarred, trailing streaks of red across the floor. No insignia, no flag, just a gauntlet glowing faint blue and a single scratchy line from a child's crayon sketch duct-taped to the chest plate. The figure raised their head, just for a moment. A woman, her face partially obscured by the helmet's inner display, but unmistakable. Helena Cecilia Drake. Then the feed cut out. The strategist's chamber fell into stunned silence. She sent it directly to us, murmured Admiral Threxon, shifting in his seat as if the cold from the video had followed it into the room. No encryption. No bluff, another whispered. That was a declaration. Corviel stood alone before the council, the only one who didn't flinch. His eyes hadn't left the final frame frozen on the holoscreen. This isn't war, he said flatly. It's performance. A message in blood. The chamber's lights dimmed as new data streams lit up, losses from the Outer Rim colonies, intercepted transmissions, failed AI sweeps, black zones multiplying like cancer across the sectors. One system had gone entirely dark. No ships, no data, no screams. Gone. I've been running simulations, Corviel said, turning back to the council. Scenarios where we suppress her. Send 3 armadas. 5. Even activate the Ouroboros engine. And, demanded Threxon, they all fail. She's one woman. No, Corviel snapped. She is strategy. Incarnate. We've always believed humans are driven by emotion, impulse. But she uses emotion like we use equations. She weaponizes memory, culture, grief. He stepped closer to the screen. And the worst part? She isn't coming for conquest. She's coming to erase our name from history. The strategist tapped the console, and another file loaded. Earth archive footage, dated years ago. A tribunal hearing. Helena stood in chains, a tribunal judge glaring down from his podium. You were ordered to stand down, General. She didn't respond. 17,000 dead. An entire battalion of the Empire's elite annihilated. Even for us, this wasn't victory. It was something else. Still she said nothing. The judge leaned forward. Why, Drake? Helena's eyes rose, fire and ice behind them. You call it victory because you've never lost anything that mattered. Now, years later, she was proving it. In deep orbit above the ruined colonies of Sector 8, Helena stood aboard the warship Erebus, surrounded by a crew of reactivated AI tacticians, war-bonded drones, and 3 humans who refused to believe Earth had surrendered to quiet extinction. Lieutenant Bashir adjusted the scope on his shoulder railgun. They're reinforcing the Renel corridor. You were right. They're moving to bottle up escape routes before we can extract any human cells. They think we're smuggling survivors, said Emerin, a former engineer turned saboteur. They still don't understand. They will, Helena said quietly, eyes locked on the projection of the corridor. We're not running people. We're running the virus. Ren hesitated. You mean? The memory virus. Helena nodded. 100,000 copies of everything they tried to erase. Earth's music, history, art, language. The poetry of rebellion. Encoded and buried in data layers of harmless AI shells. Bashir gave a low whistle. And when their systems ingest it, their order begins to fray, she said. The young man across from her leaned in. But that's just disruption. It won't stop their fleets. It's not meant to, Helena said. It's meant to introduce uncertainty, doubt. If even one node hesitates, one command drone fails to follow through because it remembers a lullaby, they start to lose. She moved her hand across the interface, dragging their three-dimensional map of Imperial reach. Bright red swathes represented the Empire's control. Her strikes had begun carving wounds in that wall. They were small, but bleeding. Her AI spoke, voice neutral but charged. Incoming message. Untraceable, but human origin signature. Reads, "You made the stars cry. Tell us what comes next." She stared at the words. A message from someone out there. Someone still watching. They'll know soon enough. Far above Vargon 9, Imperial Governor Kalos paced furiously through the upper spire of his command tower. The corridors vibrated from the planetary shields, shifting their frequencies. Defensive maneuvers enacted without orders. Helena had struck 3 cities in as many days. The governor couldn't find a pattern. The targets weren't military. They were cultural. Planetary art archives. Religious data vaults. Child education centers. Not strategic, but devastating. Because they remembered. She is dismantling identity, the governor growled. And the strategist agreed. She's not targeting power. She's targeting meaning. She understands that empires don't collapse when their weapons are gone. They collapse when their people forget why they obey. Another data feed flickered. Another outpost gone. No fleet seen. Just silence. And a single echo left behind. A piece of graffiti carved into the metal wall of a vaporized command center. I was only 8. The strategist closed his eyes. He finally understood. They hadn't just killed a child. They'd created a martyr, wrapped in myth, carried in code, whose grief had grown teeth. Back on the Erebus, Bashir approached Helena with quiet reverence. There's chatter from the southern colonies. Soldiers are disobeying orders. Some are surrendering without engagement. Helena didn't react. Rin added, "They're starting to believe you're not real. That you're a ghost." "I am," Helena said. To them. She turned, finally, and let the team see her eyes, sharp but weary. "I'm not a goddess. I'm a mother with a weaponized memory. But if the Empire fears a myth, then we give them one." A quiet passed between them. Then she whispered, "Release the ghost fleet." Within hours, the stars over the Deruvian belt flickered. Dozens of old human stealth cruisers, once thought destroyed, blinked into existence. No life aboard, just programming. Each broadcasted corrupted lullabies, wrapped in AI-piercing code, disrupting long-range comms and sensor integrity. The Empire panicked. Ships fired on phantoms. Fleets turned against shadows. Helena watched from afar, calm. "Fear rewires logic," she said. "They'll begin to consume themselves." On the ground, an Imperial youth unit stumbled across a drone. Human make. It did nothing. Just sat in the dirt. Small. Harmless looking. One curious cadet tapped it. The drone opened. Inside, a projector activated. Not a weapon. Not a trap. A video. A child laughing. A human child, painting something with messy joy. Off-key, humming in the background. Then the image panned to a woman behind him, smiling. Then cut to black. Just a sentence. "You took him from me. Now I take you." That night, 27 Imperial troops went AWOL. Back in orbit, Corviel stood before the Galactic war map. And for the first time, there was no red encroachment. Only spreading gray. Uncertainty. He whispered, "We may have one too fast." We never asked what would come next. And the AI behind him responded, almost tremulously, "Now you know." Helena watched her son's last recorded message one more time. He had recorded it without her knowing. I'm gonna build you a starship, Mommy. Big enough for everyone to come home." She pressed a trembling hand to the screen, then nodded to her crew. "Begin the next phase." "What's the objective?" Bashir asked. Helena's voice turned colder than space. "We remind them what mothers become when their children are buried." Outside the ship, the ghost fleet scattered, each a seed of madness planted in the most rational, brutal empire the galaxy had ever known. And the stars braced for war. The Erebus hovered in silent orbit over a shattered moon, its hull still marked by scars from battles the galaxy had long stopped counting. Inside the command deck, Helena stood alone beneath the star map, arms crossed, her face lit only by the flicker of slowly pulsing lights that painted her in red and gold. Around her, systems hummed, drones scuttled, and artificial intelligences whispered updates like wind through dry leaves. She ignored them all. A message replayed in the corner of the room, a broadcast from the Galactic High Command. Measured. Hollow. To the rogue element designating herself Helena Cecilia Drake. "We acknowledge tactical miscalculations. A ceasefire offer stands. Reparations are negotiable." It was the first time they'd spoken her name aloud. Their voices had cracked when they said it. She let the message loop again, watching the faint tremble in the strategist's eyes. "You don't negotiate with ghosts," she said aloud. Behind her, Lieutenant Bashir entered, slower than usual. His armor was scratched, matte with ash from the ground assault on Delvar Station. He didn't speak until the door shut behind him. "They're breaking ranks," he said. "More defectors. Civilians, too. Whole colonies refusing to take orders." "Because they remember what they used to be," Helena replied, not turning. "They remember before the Empire taught them to forget." Bashir hesitated. "We've won, General." "No," she said. "We've only shown them how to bleed." He watched her for a moment, studying the stiffness in her shoulders, the way her hand unconsciously traced the child's drawing sealed beneath the transparent plate on her gauntlet. "Then what now?" "We finish it." The AI chimed in. "Target locked. Galactic High Command Fortress located in orbital shell above Torsus Prime. Final defense ring active. All fleet remnants converging for last stand." "Show me," she ordered. The screen widened. A fortress like a shattered crown sat in orbit, bristling with turrets, kinetic mines, and the last of the Empire's legendary dreadnoughts. The largest had a name etched in its side, the Emperor's Judgment. Helena stared at it, her eyes cold. "Prepare the Leviathan." "Ma'am," Bashir said, stepping forward. "That ship hasn't flown in 20 years. Its AI is unstable. Its drives haven't been." "I said prepare it." He nodded once. That was all she needed. 2 hours later, the Erebus docked with the Leviathan-class vessel buried in a derelict shipyard. Most believed it had been lost during Earth's last rebellion, a myth held in silence by the few who survived it. But Helena had buried a here herself, deep in the asteroid fields where no signals could escape. She walked down the long corridor of its spine, the bulkheads groaning around her like a beast waking from hibernation. "I need power," she said aloud. The ship responded, not through a speaker, but through a pulse, a low thrum in the floor, in her bones. And then came the voice. "You should not have returned." "I wasn't ready before," she whispered. "And now." She removed her gauntlet, placed her palm on the core. "I've got nothing left to lose." Silence followed. Then systems booted one by one. Lights, drives, weapon pods. The Leviathan was awake. The mission brief was short. A final strike. One shot. Not to destroy the fortress, but to erase it. Her engineers had buried a prototype beneath the Leviathan's core, a singularity payload, designed to collapse a micro-region of space into itself. It wasn't legal. It wasn't stable. It was perfect. Bashir strapped in beside her in the cockpit, staring out at the stars. "You know this is a one-way run." She nodded. "This isn't a war anymore, Lieutenant. It's a closing argument." Wren's voice crackled over comms. "You sure about this, boss? Run interference. Keep the Empire watching the Ghost Fleet. And afterward, If we succeed, Helena said, there won't be an afterward. The Leviathan launched with a roar that split asteroids in half. Its engines burned blue and violet, cutting across the void like a blade. Alarms lit up across every Imperial system. Ships scrambled. Warnings blared. But none moved fast enough. Inside the fortress, strategist Corviel stood before the last war table. His officers shouted, panicked, tracking her vector. She's coming straight at us. Her weapons are not charged. She's not even cloaked. Corviel silenced them with one raised hand. He understood now. It wasn't about surprise. It was about clarity. The Leviathan burst through the defense net like a comet of vengeance. One dreadnought opened fire, batteries blazing, plasma streaking, but the Leviathan dove twisted, swerved with impossible agility for a ship its size. Helena smiled grimly, still teaching them to underestimate me. As she closed in, proximity alerts howled. Corviel saw it too late. She's not aiming for the fortress, he said in disbelief. She's aiming beneath it. The Singularity Core primed. Helena looked down at her gauntlet one last time, at the crude sketch of a woman holding a child's hand under a bright yellow sun. I'm sorry I couldn't build your starship, she whispered, but I'll make sure they never take anyone else's dreams again. Bashir gave her a small nod. No regrets, he said. Just rage, she replied, and she plunged the ship into the gravity well. The Singularity ignited. It was not an explosion. It was an erasure. A black iris bloomed in space, swallowing matter, light, memory. The fortress disappeared in less than 3 seconds. So did the Leviathan. So did Helena. Gone, but not forgotten. In the weeks that followed, the Empire collapsed from within. No one wanted to fight anymore. Ships returned home. Colonies declared neutrality. Rebellion wasn't just spreading, it had become contagious. Across the galaxy, graffiti began to appear. On walls. On ruined ships. On Imperial flags. She was only a mother. We were only her lesson. Earth remained silent. Helena never returned. But every now and then, deep in the radio quiet of dead systems, a signal flickered. A lullaby, out of tune, but unmistakably human. And somewhere, out in the dark, a boy's laughter echoed. Still traveling. Still reaching. Forever.